Welcome back to another video here on the Co-op channel. Today I'm going to be talking about how much you should be spending on a bottle of whiskey. And when I say that, there's actually a lot of different factors which really drives the price of a bottle of whiskey and the market of whiskey. And first off, you have to look at the brand and distillery, and then you start looking at the rarity and scarcity of that product, and then you can start looking at the age statement as well, which really leads in from the rarity and scarcity of that product. And they can start looking at the finishes, the regions, the styles, and a lot of different factors as well. However, I will not be going into detail about all that stuff. I'll just be talking about how much you should be really spending on a bottle of whiskey. And first off, looking at American whiskey, I feel you can spend about $20 to about $75. I feel like you can get a lot of great stuff for that price point. You can get a lot of stuff that is barrel proof as well. But you can get stuff that's all the way as cheap as $20, which is some great stuff, just like Evan Williams Bottle and Bond, which is a great whiskey for about $20. So now let's talk about Scotch. Scotch is kind of a tough one because you kind of have to break up blended Scotch from single malt Scotch, because the price entry point for a blended Scotch is a lot cheaper than a single malt Scotch. And then also you have all these different styles and regions of Scotland that creates different styles of whiskey, and some of them can be more expensive than the other. But for blended Scotches, I feel like you can spend about $30 to about $50 because you can get some good stuff. Then you can also spend up to $100 for like Compass Box or some good stuff like that. But I feel a good range for a good blended Scotch is about $30 to about $50. And then now looking at single malt Scotches, you kind of have a higher entry price point. And when I say that, I feel like you can get some great stuff for about $30 to $40. But I feel like you can get some really good product for about $50 to about $80 is a very good range, because you're starting to get to about the 16 to about 18 year age statements, or some 12-year age statements as well, depending on the brand or what you're really looking at. And it all depends on those regions and styles of whiskey as well. But when I say that, it's kind of hard to gauge Scotch because there's a lot going on, but you can buy a lot of good stuff for $30 like I said. But I feel that $40 to about $80 is a very good range to start looking at to get some good bottles. And I'll be going into later in another video talking about what you should be really buying and what you should be looking at for some great Scotches that are out there. But yeah, that's a very good close price point on what you should be spending. So now let's talk about Irish whiskey. When I say Irish whiskey, there is actually a lot going on in there as well. And there's actually not that many distilleries in Ireland right now, but they're actually opening a lot. So that is actually a good thing, because we're going to have a lot more brands that are going to be opening up pretty soon. But for Irish whiskey, you can get some really good bottles. Like Jameson is actually a very good whiskey for the price. But I feel like Irish whiskey, you can get some good stuff for about $20 to about $80. You can get yourself a Redbreast Cask Strength 12, or you can get yourself a 15 and whatnot. There's actually a lot of great stuff out there, just like Method and Madness and all the great stuff that they're doing as well. You get all the different spot whiskeys as well. But yes, they can be a little bit more expensive, but I feel about $20 to about $80 is a very good range for Irish whiskey. So now let's talk about Japanese whiskey. When I say that, there's actually a lot going on in there, because honestly, a lot of their products is a Scotch style, and they don't have that many laws that really restrict them on what really classify as a whiskey or what really makes it a Japanese whiskey. They can buy barrels and then from Scotland bottle it and say it's Japanese whiskey. So you got to be very careful on what you're buying and purchasing. And for a good price range for Japanese whiskey, I feel about $40 to about $80 to maybe $100, because you're going to be paying for their product as well, because honestly, they're going to be a little more premium of product, because that's kind of how Japanese whiskey kind of is put up onto a pedestal. So with that being said, I feel yes, about $40 to about $80 is a very good price point, because you can get Hibiki Harmony and a lot of other great products as well, from Nika from the barrel, and all that kind of stuff like that. And yes, I know it is kind of hard and very subjective when we talk about prices of whiskey that you can be spending on certain things. But like I said, this is just my personal opinion. But now let's move on to different styles and regions of whiskey as well. So you got Australian whiskey, you got whiskey from Sweden, Taiwan, and all these different styles as well. You got Mexico as well. But I'm really not going to talk about those, because those aren't some of the larger markets that are out there, and there's not that much sample value. Just like from Australia, I only have bottles from Starward, So it is kind of hard to talk about that. But honestly, their product is actually priced very well for what they produce and they sell in bottle. I feel like it is very well worth the value. But when you start talking about price of whiskey, then you can start looking at the value of whiskey as well. But I feel like that is another topic, and that is almost a individual topic for each individual bottling, because when you start talking about value, yes, some bottles that are more expensive may be worth the value, but some cheap bottles may be worth all the value and be worth every single penny that's out there. And then you can go spend $1,000 on a bottle and may not be worth anything, and you may just be worth as drain cleaner and whatnot. But yeah, that is my personal opinion on what I feel like you should be spending on a bottle of whiskey. Please go down below and tell me what you typically spend on a bottle of whiskey. And yes, I know there's a secondary market and people can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a bottle, but really there's a lot of great stuff for some great budget and some great prices out there. So let me know down below what you think you should be spending on a bottle of whiskey. So thanks again for watching, guys. You don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week. May it the best of your past and the worst of your future. Cheers, guys.